Hello em, he 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 he. Hôm nay rảnh rỗi ngồi nghịch Godot Engine nha. Thì mình đã có một ý tưởng. Sau khi xem cái game Vợ hai, Brother 2 xong thì mình ý tưởng là mới game 2D kiểu top down. Top down là kiểu nhìn xuống dưới, ấy, nhìn từ trên xuống. Ok, mình sẽ bắt đầu nghịch Godot. Ừm, đây, đây mình có tạo hai cái scene này. Ờ, mình nghĩ sẽ tạo một folder tên là player để cho cái character này. Và mình có tải một cái bộ access free trên mạng và trên cái website này, link tải thì có thể trên is.io. Ok, mình sẽ bắt đầu xem video của ông
Let's
này.
click on the root node here. Go over to the inspector and
Ở đây mình
let's
sẽ
drill down.
làm một con nhân vật. Player. Oh shit, đây là player. Xem thử có cái gì hay ho không. Player props, shadow, Tays là cái map à. Chúng ta có một con player này. Giờ làm sao để lấy ra?
Down to the character tree. That text looks blurry. You can enter field. We just drag and drop.
Cái sprite ID. Ở đây mình sẽ Ctrl A lên cái sprite. Sprite ID. Ok.
Up basic character problems going on. We click into that texture field. Texture field. We just drag and drop basic character sprites into that texture field, and now we can kind of see the character.
Ok, mình sẽ kéo cái con nhân vật ra. Ok. Mình sẽ làm quen theo ta. Có một cách để làm cái rồi đây, có một cách để làm cái con này trông nó đỡ bị rendering. Đây, nearest. Con này nó sẽ trông nó đỡ bị vỡ vỡ ảnh à. Pixel.
Character, but we have a bunch of problems going on here. First off, the image looks blurry. Because we're dealing with Pixar, let's go
Bây giờ làm một nhân vật.
for
Okay.
two separate sprites for separate animations. So Godot, there's this H frames and V, one giant square and V frames, and 4x4 grid. So 4, and then 4, and now it's only going to be showing the first frame in 4, and now 0. I'm going to click a bit more. So I'll create a character at scene level scene. So if we click on game level,
Pixel đây à? Đang nhàng nhẹ. Oh my god, sao nó bị này? Mình sẽ cắt ngắn kìa. Một thôi. Hai. Ok, mình chưa hiểu những cái thông số này lắm nên kệ. Sao lại?
and the top left of that sprite sheet. So now before and scene, I'm going to click on the character body 2D, and I'm going to rename it to be player cat, so that it's a little bit more specific than just the name.
Mình
The node order
kéo cái
characters,
độc đi mẹ.
and then we're at the top left. The first frame in that set, because our frame coords 0, 0, means we're at the top left of that sprite sheet. So now before saving this character scene, I'm going to click on the character body.
Đây à, nãy mình kéo là nó bị duplicate hai hai bạn. À, kéo vào đây nó hợp lý hơn. Đây là 4 này, đây là 2. Nó chiều rộng. Ok, mình đã cắt được nhiều bạn.
2D, then name it, create folder, characters,
Ok,
and then let's
lưu
save this
vào
player cat
player
scene
folder.
into from the list into the scene. And this player cat scene,
Không thì để thành để thành character lý hơn. Nhưng mà
we can
player thì có thể là
find
mình
nodes.
hoặc là người
Okay,
biết
so
see
you can
player
see the
chỉ là
scene.
mình thôi.
There's scene.
Creator thì
So I'm
nó
gonna
rõ
right
hơn.
click on player cat, add child node. I'll type in collision so that
Collision
we can
là
find collision shape
hitbox.
2D. Note once again that collision shape 2D inherits from node 2D, which inherits from canvas item. So anything as you go down the chain, it still has the functions of everything above it. So whatever a node 2D can do, a collision shape 2D can also do. So let's create this collision shape, and you'll get another warning sign for the collision shape because a shape node actually needs a shape resource attached to it. So the shape resource is going to be stored over here
Đây
in
mình sẽ
this
tạo một
shape
cái
field.
hitbox.
So if you click on the dropdown, you can choose a type of shape for your character. So something like rectangle shape, circle shape, or capsule shape is probably going to make the most sense. When we create it, you can see that rectangle more like you have settings you can set about it, such as the size to adjust it to 5 pixels by 5 pixels manually here.
Không kéo
But a
được.
more intuitive way is probably just to adjust it using these circles that appear around your collision shape. So you can pull these out and just set this.
Sao thằng này nó kéo được cơ mà? Bố khỉ. Sao đéo kéo được? Sao đéo kéo được?
The size and shape of your collision. More intuitive. Click on the rectangle shape 2D to have settings you can set about it, such as way is probably just to adjust it using these circles that appear around your collision shape. So
Sao đéo kéo nhỉ? Đây là rồi, nãy bị đụng chuột nhau. Con này hình chữ nhật thì đơn giản nó khéo nó copy tỉ mỉ phết anh em ạ. Ok.
you can so I am the top now, which has the player and attached to our character, which would GD script. So let's hit the stop button in the top right. Okay, so now to add a script to the player cat, let's click on the root node here, go over to the inspector, and down at the bottom, there's this area here, script, empty. So I'm going to click on the drop down, hit new script. This will create a GD script, and inheriting on hit new script, this will create a
New script à? New script ở đâu? Chỗ kính phạt.
GD script.
Đây, script này.
Inheriting from character body 2D, which means that the script can do everything that the character body under it can do already. So it's building on top of what already exists. And we're not going to use the template for character body 2D basic movement. This has extra stuff like jumping, which right now don't actually make sense for the character. So we'll just write a couple lines from scratch. And for the path, you can see that it defaults by storing the Godot script into the same folder where our player cat scene is. So I'm just going to stick to that convention and hit create. So now we have the player cat Godot script inside of the folder. You can also see this icon next to player cat showing that a custom script has been attached to this node, which gives it the extra functionality. So anytime you want to edit the script, you can just click here. You don't necessarily have to find it in the file system. So in order to move our character around, we're going to put the have to find it in the file system. So in order to move our character around, we're going to put the code that causes that to happen inside of the physics process function. So physics process will run a certain number of times per second, along with every other object that has a physics process function. Everything on your screen is going to get calculated and moved at roughly the same time with physics process. So anything that's going to be moving and colliding, you generally want that code to be in physics process. So you do need to put in this parameter delta. I put the underscore because we're not going to be using the delta right now. So an underscore in Godot can represent a unused variable so that you don't get the warning. But the delta is the time since the last physics process updated. However, when we use the move and slide function, it's going to automatically take that into consideration, so we don't need to manually pass it as a parameter. But when we get to the move and slide function, which is it automatically takes into consideration the delta, so we don't need to worry about that manually. New variable in the delta. So a vector 2, you can just think of it as it has an x and a y value. So x in our game is going to be horizontal movement, left and right, and then y is up and down. So we don't need a vector 3 because this is a 2D game, not a 3D game, so there's no z-axis. Don't worry about that. So to calculate our input direction, we need to know the keys that are going to be responsible for left and right movement. So when we're doing keyboard input, WASD movement, pretty standard for games these days, that would be A and D on the keyboard. But we're going to get the action, not the keys directly. So to do that, you can type input.get action strength. So in terms of a key press, this is whether it's pressed down or it's not pressed down. And you can see that the action is a string name. So I am going to put right here for the first action. And we're actually going to subtract input.get action strength left here. The reason for that is that our right arrow, or D on the keyboard, is going to cancel out our left movement key, which is A, or you could have it set up as left arrow on the keyboard if you want. So basically, if you have them both pressed down, then the character won't move. But if you have right pressed down, then this is a positive value. It'll give you a positive one. But you can see the subtraction sign means that pressing down the left key represents a value of -1. So if our positive direction is right on the x-axis, then that's going to mean that if we have a positive value, we're going to move right, and if we have a negative value, we're going to move left. So the same idea applies to moving down and up. So import.get action strength, and I'm going to call this down for the action name. We haven't actually set these action names yet. You can set them to whatever you want. Just make sure that in the project settings, it matches the string values here for it to work. So down is actually going to be our positive input for the y-axis. So a positive value corresponds with going down on the screen, and a negative value corresponds with going up on the screen. The last action needs to be input.get action strength, and then up. So this will get us our input direction if we have those actions set up. So to set up the actions, go to...
Sao lỗi nhỉ? Input dot get action strength.
To project settings, input map, and then we need to add action names that match these in the input.get action strength. So I'm going to type in right and hit enter, left, enter, down, enter, and up, enter. So that creates our 4 actions. And now these actions can have multiple types of input attached to them. So you might have a keyboard input for the action, and you might also have a controller input. So that's why you get the action and not the direct key press directly, so that you can account for other input types. For today, we're just going to be using the keyboard. So I'm going to hit plus over here to add an event, character D movement, or you could even add D down. I'll add the next key. So it's waiting for us to press the left.
Phải gán nút. Cái này cái cách này thì nó bị thủ công từ đầu, nó từ đầu cái left down. Up. Đấy, bấm luôn ở trên Đấy, nhầm thanh enter rồi. Bấm luôn trên bàn phím. Rất là hay. Lưu. Ok, lưu.
Input direction. So when we use the print function, it's going to output a message down here, and the message is going to be the values of our vector2, input direction, the variable. So let's go ahead and hit play, and you'll see that on every physics update, it's going to print our vector2, and then when we press WASD around,
Ồ, nó sẽ print ra input direction. Lưu phải đầy qua. Ok, lưu.
you see those
Đó, là chặn. Bây giờ cho cái con nãy mình đặt tên là player rồi mình cho con này vào đây. Ok. Ok, và mình sẽ chạy. Select.
values change. To stop, we can use now be the direction that to be a float, which is a number.
Ok, khá là thế anh em ạ. Kết thúc nha.